The rejection ceremony was in 3 hours, and Iris had exactly one option left: marry the scarred stranger sitting alone in the back of the underground bar, the one everyone else was too afraid to look at. She stood just inside the doorway, letting her eyes adjust to the dim light and cigarette haze. The Broken Fang was exactly as bad as its reputation promised. Rogue wolves hunched over sticky tables, nursing drinks that smelled like paint thinner. Pack enforcers sat in clusters, pretending they weren't here to spy on the rogues. And everywhere, the thick, sour scent of violence waiting to happen. Iris didn't belong here. She was small, wolfless, and wearing a dress she'd stolen from Vanessa's donation pile. But desperation had a way of making you brave, or stupid. Tonight she couldn't tell the difference. 3 hours. That's all the time she had before Marcus dragged her in front of the Silverfang pack and severed their bond in front of everyone. 5 years he'd kept her hidden like a shameful secret, touching her in the dark, using her when he needed comfort, then walking into the daylight to court the Alpha's perfect daughter. Now Vanessa was ready to mate, and Iris was ready to die. That's what happened when a rejection was performed on a partial bond. The wolf in the stronger mate survived. The weaker one didn't. And Iris didn't even have a wolf to fight for her. She was going to burn from the inside out while Marcus watched, free to start his new life. Unless she found a husband in the next 3 hours. Her gaze swept the room again. Too drunk, too violent, too likely to sell her back to Marcus for a case of beer. She'd almost given up when she noticed him, the man in the back corner sitting alone in a pocket of shadow that seemed to bend around him. He was big. That was the first thing she noticed. Broad shoulders, long legs stretched out under the table, hands wrapped around a glass of something clear. The second thing she noticed was the scar, a brutal line that started above his left eyebrow and carved down across his jaw, disappearing into his collar. He wore no pack insignia, no rings, nothing that marked him as belonging to anyone or anything. And every single person in this bar was pretending he didn't exist. Not ignoring him the way you ignore a stranger. Ignoring him the way you ignore a loaded gun sitting on the table, too scared to look at it, too scared to look away. Iris's heart hammered against her ribs. This was insane. This was suicide with extra steps, but dying on her own terms beat dying on Marcus's. She crossed the room before she could talk herself out of it, stopped at his table. The stranger didn't look up, but she felt his attention shift to her like a physical weight, heavy and cold and assessing. "I need a husband," she said. Her voice came out steadier than she expected. "Tonight. Right now, actually." Slowly he lifted his head. His eyes were dark, not brown, but truly dark, like someone had poured ink into them. They moved over her face, her stolen dress, the faded mark on her throat that Marcus had never bothered to complete. "Interesting proposal." His voice was low, rough, like gravel scraped over stone. "Most women run the other way." "I'm not most women." "No," he agreed. "Most women have wolves." Iris flinched. She couldn't help it. Her condition wasn't visible, but somehow he'd sensed it immediately, the hollow space where her wolf should be. "I don't need a wolf," she said. "I need a legal mating claim. Something on paper. It would nullify the rejection ceremony my current mate is planning." She paused. "I can pay you. Not much, but I don't need money." "Then what do you need?" He was quiet for a long moment, turning his glass slowly on the table. The liquid caught what little light existed and threw fragments across his scarred face. "What do I get in return?" he finally asked. "I'll be useful. I can cook, clean." She swallowed. "Disappear when you need me to." His mouth curved, not quite a smile, something sharper. "I don't need a servant." "Then what?" "But I could use a wife. For political purposes." His dark eyes locked onto hers. 6 months. You play the part when required. Otherwise, you're free to live as you choose. After 6 months, we part ways. Clean. Simple. It was too easy. Too neat. Nothing about this man suggested clean or simple, but 3 hours was 3 hours. "Deal," Iris said. He stood. He was even taller than she'd realized, towering over her in a way that should have felt threatening but somehow didn't. He pulled a worn notebook from his jacket, tore out a page, and began writing in quick, precise strokes. "This will hold until we can file proper documents." He slid the paper across the table to her. "Sign." Iris read it quickly. It was exactly what he'd said. A 6-month contract, mutual dissolution at the end, no claims on property or pack affiliation. Simple. She signed her name. Her hand was shaking, but her signature was legible. He took the pen from her fingers and added his own signature below hers. Then he reached for her hand. "This makes it official, at least enough to stop whatever ceremony they had planned." Iris braced herself. When another wolf touched a wolfless omega, it usually felt like nothing, a reminder of everything she was missing. But when his fingers closed around hers, she felt something impossible flicker through her. Warmth, deep in her chest, right where her wolf should be, like a pilot light catching flame in a cold furnace. She yanked her hand back, staring at him. He didn't react, just tucked the paper into his jacket. "My name is Kyle," he said. "I'd suggest we leave before whoever you're running from realizes where you are." Kyle. No last name. No pack. No explanation for why her body was still humming with that strange warmth. Iris followed him toward the door. She'd ask questions later. Right now, all that mattered was getting out, getting away, surviving the next 3 hours. They stepped into the cold night air. The alley behind the Broken Fang smelled like garbage and old beer, but Iris gulped it down gratefully. She was outside. She was married, technically. She might actually live through this night. Then the shadows moved. 5 men stepped out of the darkness, forming a half circle that blocked the alley's only exit. Iris recognized them immediately. Marcus's enforcers. The ones he used for the dirty jobs the pack couldn't officially acknowledge. And behind them, stepping into the light like he owned it, was Marcus himself. He was handsome. That was the cruelest thing about him, those golden brown eyes, that easy smile, the body built like a Greek statue. 5 years ago, Iris had thought she was the luckiest woman alive when he'd chosen her. Now she knew the truth. Marcus Cole was a monster wearing a prince's face. "Iris." His voice was soft, almost tender. "Where are you going, sweetheart? The ceremony starts soon. You know I hate to be kept waiting." "I'm not going anywhere with you." Marcus sighed, like she was a child throwing a tantrum. "We've discussed this. It'll be quick. You'll barely feel anything." "She's not going anywhere," Kyle said quietly. It was the first time he'd spoken since they left the bar. His voice was calm, almost bored. But something in the air shifted. The temperature seemed to drop. Marcus's gaze moved to Kyle for the first time, and his smile faltered. "Who the hell are you?" "Her husband." The word hung in the air. One of the enforcers laughed nervously. Marcus's eyes narrowed. "That's impossible. She's my mate." "Not anymore." Kyle reached into his jacket and withdrew the signed paper. "The claim's been filed. Your ceremony is nullified." Marcus's face twisted. For a moment, Iris saw the real him, the cruel, petty creature beneath the handsome mask. His eyes flickered gold as his wolf rose to the surface. "You think a piece of paper means anything?" He stalked toward them. "She's mine. I've had her for 5 years. Some rogue trash isn't going to—" He stopped, mid-stride, mid-sentence. Iris didn't understand what had happened at first. Then she saw Marcus's wolf. Not literally, but she could feel it somehow. Sensed the way it suddenly cowered behind his eyes, its tail between its legs, whimpering. Marcus dropped to one knee, not gracefully, not in submission. He collapsed, like his legs had simply given out beneath him. His face drained of color. His whole body started to shake. Behind him, one by one, his enforcers followed, knees hitting concrete, heads bowed. 5 of the most dangerous wolves in Silverfang territory, kneeling in garbage-strewn alley like they were in the presence of something holy or something terrifying. "Forgive me," Marcus whispered, his voice cracked. "I didn't know she was... I didn't realize." Kyle's hand settled on Iris's lower back. The touch was light, almost gentle, but possessive, unmovable. "Didn't realize what, Beta?" Marcus couldn't answer. He was shaking too hard. His wolf was making sounds Iris had never heard before, high, keening whines of absolute submission, of fear. Iris stared at her contract husband, at the scarred stranger she'd agreed to marry on nothing more than desperation and a handshake. The man who'd made 5 wolves kneel without a single command, without raising his voice, without even trying. What kind of man makes wolves kneel like that? Kyle looked down at her. His dark eyes gave away nothing, but his hand stayed on her back, warm and steady. "We should go," he said. "Your former mate needs time to collect himself." Iris walked with him past the kneeling men, past Marcus's shaking form, into the darkness beyond the alley. She didn't look back, but she could feel Marcus's eyes on her the whole way, and she could feel the question burning in her chest, growing larger with every step. Who did I just marry? Wanting to see what would happen next? Subscribe to this channel to get to listen to more of our upcoming exciting stories. Click on the subscribe button now. Thank you. Chapter 2. Iris expected a cabin, maybe a rundown farmhouse on pack territory, or one of those isolated hunting lodges rogues like to use as bases. Something small, hidden, forgettable, the kind of place a scarred stranger with no pack insignia would call home. She did not expect a fortress carved into the side of a mountain. The obsidian citadel rose out of the darkness like a nightmare made of black stone and sharp edges. Towers stretched toward the moon, walls thick enough to withstand an army, curved around the mountainside. And everywhere, on the gates, the banners, the armor of the guards who straightened to attention as they approached, the symbol of the Alpha King. A wolf's head crowned with thorns. Iris's feet stopped moving. "No," she whispered. Kyle paused beside her. In the moonlight, his scar looked deeper, more brutal. His dark eyes reflected nothing. "You've figured it out," he said. "Not a question. The Alpha King." Her voice came out thin, strangled. "You're the Alpha King." "Kyle Voss." "Yes." He said it the way someone might confirm their middle name or their coffee order. Casually, like it was nothing, like he hadn't just turned her entire world inside out. Iris's mind raced, tripping over everything she'd ever heard about him. The Butcher King, the man who'd slaughtered his own father to take the throne at 17. The ruler whose first mate had died under mysterious circumstances. Poison, some said. His own claws, others whispered. She'd married a monster. Not the small-time monster she'd been fleeing, but the monster. The one they used to scare children into obedience. Behave, or the Alpha King will come for you. "I need to leave." She stepped backward. "This was a mistake. I'll find another way." "There is no other way." Kyle's voice was calm, patient, like he'd expected this reaction. "You signed a contract. I fulfilled my end. Your rejection ceremony was nullified the moment you became my wife. If you leave now, that protection goes with you. Then let it go. I'd rather take my chances with Marcus than..." "Than what?" He turned to face her fully. The moonlight caught the hard planes of his face, the cruel line of his mouth. "Than be married to a murderer? A butcher?" His voice dropped. "You don't know anything about me, little Omega. Don't pretend you do. I know what everyone says. Everyone says a lot of things." He stepped closer, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to look at him. "They said you were Marcus Cole's property. They said wolfless Omegas are worthless. They said you'd be dead by morning." His dark eyes held hers. "Were they right?" Iris couldn't answer. "Come inside," Kyle said. "It's cold, and whether you like it or not, you're the queen of the 12 packs now. We should discuss what that means." He turned and walked through the gates. The guards bowed as he passed, deep and reverent, their wolves rolling over in submission. Iris stood frozen in the darkness, watching him go. She could run. Right now. Disappear into the forest and take her chances with whatever found her first. It would probably be a kinder death than whatever waited inside those black walls. But running had gotten her here in the first place. Running from Marcus. Running from Silverfang. Running from every moment in her life when she'd had to choose between bad and worse. Maybe it was time to stop running. She followed the Alpha King into his castle. The inside of the obsidian citadel was nothing like its exterior. Where the outside was harsh and brutal, the inside was warm. Tapestries lined the walls rich with colour. Fires crackled in massive hearths. Wolves in servants' attire moved through the halls with quiet efficiency, nodding respectfully as Kyle passed. It felt like a home, a cold, ancient, terrifying home, but a home nonetheless. Kyle led her through twisting corridors without speaking, past doors that probably led to places she'd never be allowed to see. Finally, they stopped before a set of double doors inlaid with silver moonstone. "Your chambers," he said. They were the Queen's quarters. They've been unused since... He didn't finish. He didn't have to. Since his first wife died. Iris's hand hesitated on the door handle. "Where do you sleep?" "The King's chambers, connected by a private passage." He must have seen the alarm on her face because his mouth twitched, almost amused. "The door locks from your side. I won't enter without permission." How reassuring. "I told you this was a transaction. I need a political bride, someone without pack alliances or noble schemes. Someone who won't spy for my enemies or poison my food." His dark gaze swept over her. "A nobody Omega with no wolf and no connections is perfect. You'll play the part when required. Otherwise, you're free to live as you choose. And when the 6 months are over, we dissolve the contract. You leave with enough money to start fresh somewhere far from here, and Marcus Cole won't be a problem." Something cold flickered in his eyes. "I'll make sure of that." It was terrifying. It was also the best offer she'd ever received. "What if I refuse?" she asked. "What if I decide tomorrow that I want out?" "Then I won't stop you. But the protection ends the moment you walk through those gates. And believe me, little Omega, whatever's waiting for you out there is worse than anything waiting in here." He turned and walked away, disappearing into the shadows of the corridor. Iris pushed open the doors to her new chambers and stepped inside. The Queen's quarters were beautiful. Soaring ceilings painted with constellations. A bed large enough for 6 people draped in silk the colour of midnight. A fireplace already crackling with flames. Windows that looked out over the moonlit valley below. And everywhere, the faint scent of roses. Sweet, delicate, dead. Iris moved through the rooms slowly, trailing her fingers over furniture that probably cost more than her entire life. A vanity with silver brushes. A writing desk with fresh paper and ink. A wardrobe full of gowns in jewel tones she'd never be able to wear without feeling like a fraud. Queen Celeste's things. Still here. Still waiting for an owner who would never return. Iris opened the wardrobe and ran her hands over the fabric. Silk. Velvet. Things she'd only seen in shop windows. Things that would make her look like she belonged here. But she didn't belong. She never would. Her hand caught on something at the back of the wardrobe. A rough patch on the smooth wood. She pushed the gowns aside to get a better look. And froze. Claw marks. Deep gouges carved into the inside of the wardrobe door. 4 parallel lines, repeated over and over, layered on top of each other like someone had been scratching desperately at the wood. Trying to get out. Iris stumbled backward, her heart slamming against her ribs. The rose scent suddenly seemed cloying, suffocating, like flowers left too long on a grave. She was murdered in her own chambers while Kyle was away. That's what the rumours said. Queen Celeste. Found dead in her rooms. No sign of forced entry. No witnesses. The killer never found. Half the court believed Kyle had ordered it himself. Looking at those claw marks, Iris wasn't sure what to believe. Morning came too quickly. Iris hadn't slept. Every shadow had looked like a threat. Every creak of the old castle had sounded like footsteps outside her door. She'd finally given up around dawn and dressed in the simplest gown she could find, dark blue, unadorned, something that wouldn't draw attention. A knock came at her door precisely at 8. The woman who entered was beautiful in the way weapons were beautiful. Sharp cheekbones, ice blonde hair pulled back in an elaborate twist, eyes the colour of frozen rivers. "I'm Lady Serena," she said, not bothering to wait for Iris to introduce herself. "The king asked me to show you around the citadel, get you acquainted with court protocol." Her tone suggested she'd rather be doing literally anything else. "Thank you," Iris said carefully. "That's very kind." "It's not kind, it's my duty." Serena's frozen gaze swept over Iris, cataloguing every flaw. "I was the king's companion for 3 years. I know the court better than anyone. He trusts my judgment. Companion, not lover, not mate, just companion." Iris understood. This woman had expected to be queen, had probably been measuring herself for the crown already. And now here was Iris, a wolfless nobody from a nowhere pack, wearing the title that should have been hers. "I'm sure you'll be an excellent guide," Iris said. Serena's smile was as cold as her eyes. "Follow me." The court was exactly as brutal as Iris had feared. Lady Serena led her through a maze of drawing rooms, throne halls and gardens, each one filled with wolves who stopped talking the moment Iris entered. Their whispers followed her like shadows. "That's her? The new queen? She's wolfless. Can you smell it? Empty as a broken vessel. How long do you think this one will last?" Iris kept her head high and her mouth shut. She'd survived 5 years of Marcus's cruelty. She could survive a few whispers. But the whispers weren't the worst part. The worst part was the way they looked at her. Not with hatred or contempt, but with pity. Like she was a lamb that had wandered into a wolf's den. Like it was only a matter of time before she was torn apart. "The king's inner circle," Serena said, stopping before a heavy oak door. "You should meet them. They'll want to assess you." The way she said assess made it sound like a threat. The room beyond was a study of sorts. Leather chairs, books lining every wall, a fire crackling low, and 3 wolves who looked up as Iris entered, their expressions ranging from curious to hostile. Dominic Vane, Serena indicated, a massive man with silver-streaked black hair and a face that looked like it had never smiled. The king's beta and commander of the Citadel Guard. Dominic studied Iris with cold assessment. "You're smaller than I expected." "I get that a lot." "The king said you approached him in a border bar, offered yourself as a contract bride." His voice was flat, skeptical. "That's quite a gamble for a wolfless Omega." "Almost like you knew who he was." "I didn't. So you just happened to approach the most powerful wolf in existence and offer him marriage. Coincidentally." "I approached the man who wasn't drunk and didn't look like he'd sell me back to my abuser for beer money." Iris held his gaze. "If I'd known who he was, I probably would have found someone else." Something flickered in Dominic's cold eyes. Surprise, maybe, or the faintest hint of respect. "She's got a mouth on her," said the woman lounging in the chair by the fire. Red hair, sharp features, a lazy smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I'm Helena, spy master. I know everything about everyone in this court." She tilted her head. "I'll know everything about you soon enough. Good luck with that. There's not much to know." "There's always something to know, sweetheart." The third wolf hadn't spoken. He sat in the shadows by the window, watching Iris with eyes that were somehow familiar, dark, assessing, a younger version of Kyle's brutal focus. "Cyrus Voss," Serena said. "The king's younger brother." Cyrus didn't bother with pleasantries. "You're not what I expected." "What did you expect?" "Someone beautiful, scheming, dangerous." His mouth curved. "You're just ordinary. It should have been an insult, but something in his voice made it sound almost like a compliment. "I'll try to be more dangerous next time," Iris said. Cyrus laughed, a surprised, genuine sound. "I think I like her." "Don't get attached," Dominic growled. "The last queen everyone liked ended up dead in her chambers." The words fell like stones into still water. Iris kept her face neutral, but her heart was racing. What happened to her? "You don't know?" Helena's lazy smile sharpened. "Celeste Voss, beloved queen of the 12 Packs, was murdered in her bed 3 years ago. Throat torn out, blood everywhere. And the king wasn't there to protect her." "Helena." The warning came from the doorway. Kyle stood there, still as shadow, his dark eyes fixed on his spymaster with an expression that promised pain. "That's enough. She should know what she's walking into." Helena didn't seem bothered by his arrival. If someone's going to kill her, she deserves to know what happened to her predecessor. "No one is going to kill her." "You said the same thing about Celeste." The temperature in the room dropped. Iris could feel the wolves' animals stirring, reacting to something she couldn't see. Dominic's hand moved toward his weapon. Cyrus went very still by the window, but Kyle didn't raise his voice, didn't move at all. He just looked at Helena with those empty dark eyes until she finally dropped her gaze. "My apologies, Your Majesty. I spoke out of turn." "Yes, you did." Kyle's attention shifted to Iris. "My wife and I have matters to discuss. Leave us." It wasn't a request. One by one, the wolves filed out. Dominic gave Iris a final assessing look. Cyrus nodded once. Serena's ice-cold gaze promised future unpleasantness. Helena just smiled, like she was keeping a secret. Then they were gone, and Iris was alone with the king. Kyle crossed to the window, looking out over the valley. His broad shoulders blocked most of the light. "They're testing you," he said. "It's what they do. Find weaknesses, probe defenses. You handled it well. I've had practice." He turned. In the grey morning light, his scar looked almost silver. "Marcus Cole? 5 years of practice in keeping my face blank while people say terrible things?" She paused. "Is it true, what Helena said about your wife?" "Celeste was murdered. Yes. In these chambers. And you weren't there?" "No." His voice was flat. "I was dealing with a border uprising. By the time I returned, she was already dead." He paused. "Half the court thinks I ordered it myself." "Did you?" The question hung between them. Iris didn't know why she'd asked, didn't know why it mattered, but something in her needed to know, needed to see how he'd react. Kyle's dark eyes held hers. "No, I did not kill my wife. But you know who did." Something flickered in his expression. There and gone, too fast to read. "Why would you think that?" "Because Dominic said you couldn't protect her. And you didn't deny it." Iris took a step closer. "You blame yourself. Not because you ordered it, but because you know who did, and you haven't done anything about it." For a long moment Kyle was silent. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet, dangerous. "You see too much, little Omega. I told you. I've had practice." He moved toward her, slowly, deliberately, giving her time to step back. She didn't. He stopped close enough that she had to tilt her head to meet his eyes, close enough to feel the heat coming off him in waves. "Some truths are buried for a reason," he said softly. "Some doors should stay closed." Celeste didn't understand that. She went digging. She found something she shouldn't have, and it killed her. His dark gaze bored into hers. "Don't make the same mistake." "Is that a threat?" "It's a warning, from a man who's already buried one wife." He stepped back. The moment broke. "Breakfast will be served in the Great Hall. Lady Serena will escort you." His voice was cold again, distant. "I have matters to attend to. I'll see you at the formal presentation tonight." He left without looking back. Iris stood in the empty study, her heart pounding, her mind racing. She went digging. She found something she shouldn't have. What had Celeste found? And who had killed her to keep it secret? That night, Iris lay in the dead queen's bed and couldn't sleep. The rose scent was everywhere, no matter how many windows she opened. The claw marks on the wardrobe door seemed to glow in the moonlight, and every time she closed her eyes, she saw Helena's lazy smile. Heard her voice like poison, throat torn out, blood everywhere. Finally, exhaustion won. She drifted into an uneasy sleep and dreamed. She was in a forest she didn't recognize, silver trees, white mist, a moon so full it seemed to fill the entire sky, and there in the clearing ahead was a wolf, silver fur matted with blood, blue eyes wild with desperation. She was beautiful, even dying, even terrified. Celeste, Iris thought. This is Celeste. The wolf limped toward her, each step leaving a trail of crimson in the white snow. When she reached Iris, she pressed her muzzle against Iris's hands. Something cold and hard appeared in Iris's palms. "Find the truth," the wolf whispered. Her voice echoed strangely like it was coming from everywhere at once. He didn't do it, but he knows who did, and he's protecting them. Protecting who? Find the truth. The wolf dissolved into silver mist. The forest shattered. Iris was falling into darkness. She woke with a gasp. Her palms were burning, not a metaphor, actually burning, like someone had pressed hot coals against her skin. She stumbled out of bed, to the mirror, holding her hands up to the moonlight, and stared. There on each palm was a scar, crescent-shaped, silver-edged. Scars that hadn't been there when she went to sleep, scars in the shape of wolf's claws. Iris touched the marks with shaking fingers. They were cool now, smooth, as if they'd been there for years. Find the truth. She looked at the wardrobe door, at the claw marks hidden behind silk and velvet, at the room where a queen had died screaming. He knows who did it, and he's protecting them. Iris closed her fists around her new scars. "I'll find it," she whispered to the empty room. "Whatever you found, whatever got you killed, I'll find it." Somewhere in the castle, a wolf howled, and in her hollow chest, where her wolf should have been, something stirred. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 3. Something was wrong with Iris. Not wrong in the way Marcus used to say. Wrong meaning broken, defective, empty. This was different. This was wrong in a way that felt almost right. It started small. A prickle at the back of her neck when someone stared too long. A flash of warmth in her chest when she walked past the training yards and heard the clash of steel. A strange, restless energy humming beneath her skin that made her want to move, to run, to hunt. For 23 years she'd been hollow, a vessel with nothing inside. The doctors had called it dormant wolf syndrome, rare but not unheard of. Sometimes the wolf simply never woke. Sometimes trauma buried it so deep it couldn't find its way out. Iris couldn't remember the trauma. Just flashes, fire, screaming. Her mother's voice telling her to run. And then nothing. Nothing but emptiness where her wolf should have been. But now, 3 days after arriving at the obsidian citadel, 3 days after dreaming of a silver wolf and waking with crescent scars on her palms, she didn't feel empty anymore. She felt full. Kyle noticed. Iris caught him watching her at breakfast, his dark eyes tracking her movements as she reached for the bread basket. Watching her at the formal luncheon, where she sat beside him in silence while noble wolves discussed border disputes. Watching her in the corridors when they passed each other and he paused, just for a moment, to breathe deep. "You smell different," he said on the third night. They were in his study, reviewing the guest list for the upcoming Summit of Alphas. 12 pack leaders would arrive tomorrow to swear fealty to the king, and Iris would have to stand beside him and pretend she belonged there. Different how? Kyle's jaw tightened. He looked away. Stronger. I don't know what that means. Neither do I. His voice was rough, strained. Before, you smelled like absence. Empty space where a wolf should be. Now? He stopped. His hands curled into fists on the desk. Now you smell like rain before a storm. Like something waking up. Iris touched the scars on her palms. They'd faded to pale silver over the past 3 days, but she could still feel them. A constant, gentle warmth. A reminder that something had changed. Is that bad? I don't know. He finally looked at her. In the firelight, his eyes were almost soft, almost worried. But you should know that others will notice too. Wolves are sensitive to shifts in power. If something's changing inside you, they'll sense it. And they'll react. How? That depends on what you're becoming. He paused. And whether they see you as a threat or an opportunity. The summit of alphas began at noon the following day. Iris had been dressed by 3 servants in a gown of deep crimson silk, her hair pinned back with silver combs, her face painted with subtle colour. She looked like a queen. She felt like a lamb dressed for slaughter. The great hall had been transformed. Banners from all 12 packs hung from the rafters. Silverfang's silver wolf, Ironclaw's black bear, Bloodmoon's crimson crescent. Long tables stretched the length of the room, already filling with delegates, advisors, and wolves of every rank. And at the centre of it all, on a dais of black marble, sat 2 thrones. Kyle was already in place when Iris entered. He wore formal black, his crown, a simple band of dark iron resting on his brow. He looked every inch the Butcher King, cold, untouchable, dangerous. But when he saw Iris, something flickered in his expression. Just for a moment. So fast she almost missed it. Then his mask slid back into place and he extended his hand. My queen. Iris climbed the dais and took her seat beside him. Below, 100 wolves watched her with hungry eyes. Smile, she told herself, breathe. You've survived worse than this. But had she? Marcus had been cruel, but he'd been one wolf. This was a room full of apex predators, each one calculating her weaknesses, searching for the vulnerability that would let them tear her apart. The ceremony began. One by one, the alphas approached the thrones to swear their loyalty. Ancient words, ancient rituals. Each alpha knelt, pressed their forehead to Kyle's hand, and pledged their pack to his service. Iris watched them carefully. Some were sincere. She could see it in the way their wolves submitted easily, naturally. Others were resentful, their animals straining against the forced submission, eyes burning with barely concealed ambition. But all of them looked at her, every single one, measuring, judging, finding her wanting. By the time the 11th alpha had finished his pledge, Iris's nerves were wound so tight she could barely breathe. Her palms ached. Her skin felt too small. That strange, restless energy was building inside her, pressing against her ribs like something trying to get out. Not now, she thought desperately. Whatever you are, whatever's happening, not now. Alpha Gerald of the Iron Claw pack stepped forward. He was massive, easily the largest wolf in the room, with shoulders like a bull and hands that could crush skulls. His pack was known for their brutality, their warriors, their absolute disdain for anyone they considered weak. He knelt before Kyle with the bare minimum of respect. His pledge was perfunctory, his voice flat. But when he rose, his eyes slid to Iris. And he smiled. Your Majesty, he said, not looking at Kyle at all. I see you've found yourself a new pet. Where did you dig this one up? The reject pile? A murmur rippled through the hall. Iris felt her face heat, but she kept her expression neutral. She'd heard worse. She'd survived worse. Careful, Gerald. Kyle's voice was soft, dangerous. That's your queen you're addressing. Queen, Gerald laughed. A big, booming sound that echoed off the stone walls. She's a wolfless omega who spread her legs at the right moment. Don't pretend she's anything more." The hall went silent. Every wolf, every servant, every breath seemed to stop. Iris should have stayed quiet. Should have let Kyle handle it. That was the smart move, the safe move, the move that kept her alive. But something was rising inside her, something hot and wild and ancient, clawing its way up from the hollow place in her chest. Gerald stepped closer to the dais, close enough that his massive hand shot out and grabbed her arm, yanking her forward in her throne. "Let me give you some advice, little Omega," he sneered, his grip bruising. "Know your place. You're nothing but a—" Snap. Something broke inside Iris. Not painfully, not wrong. It was like a door flying open, like chains shattering, like a creature taking its first breath after drowning for 23 years. Her eyes flashed gold. Her voice came out layered, harmonic, resonant, echoing with a power that wasn't human. "Remove your hand." Gerald's fingers sprang open like they'd been burned. He stumbled backward, hit his knees and stayed there. His wolf was whimpering. She could feel it somehow, feel the animal cowering and crying beneath his skin. The hall was frozen. 100 wolves staring at her with wide eyes and dropped jaws. She could feel their shock, their fear, their confusion pulsing through the air like a living thing. Iris looked down at Gerald, at the alpha who'd called her worthless, who'd grabbed her like she was nothing, now kneeling at her feet with terror in his eyes. The gold faded from her vision. The harmonic echo disappeared from her voice. The power that had exploded through her retreated, settling back into her chest like a great cat curling up to sleep. But it was still there, still waiting. She felt it now. For the first time in her life. Her wolf, awake, alive, angry. "You may rise," she said quietly. Gerald scrambled to his feet. He didn't look at her, didn't look at anyone. He stumbled back to his delegation, face white as bone. Kyle's hand found hers under the table. His grip was warm, steady. But when she glanced at him, his dark eyes were blazing with something she couldn't name. "The ceremony is concluded," he announced. His voice rang out across the silent hall. "We feast tonight. Tomorrow we discuss the business of the realm." The wolves began to move, talking, whispering, staring at Iris with a mixture of fear and fascination. She didn't hear any of it. She was too busy feeling the impossible heartbeat in her chest, her wolf's heartbeat, steady and strong, no longer dormant, no longer empty. The feast was a nightmare. Not because of Gerald. He kept his distance, refusing to even look in her direction. But the whispers were everywhere, following Iris like shadows, cutting through the music and conversation with poisonous precision. Did you see her eyes? Gold, like an alpha's. Impossible. She's an Omega. She's wolfless. Was wolfless. Something's changed. Maybe it's dark magic. Maybe she's been hiding her true rank all along. Maybe she's controlling the king, using him. Lady Serena was the worst. She didn't bother whispering. She spoke loudly enough for Iris to hear every word. Celeste never would have caused such a scene. She understood grace, dignity. She didn't need to intimidate the alphas to earn their respect. She just needed to die mysteriously, Helena murmured. Serena's ice-blue eyes flashed. "Watch your tongue, spy master." "I always do. It's other people's tongues I find interesting." Iris escaped as soon as she could, slipping out of the great hall and into the quiet darkness of the corridors. Her heart was still racing. Her wolf was still pacing beneath her skin, restless and wild and confused. What was happening to her? What had happened in that hall? She'd commanded an alpha, commanded him, with a voice that wasn't entirely hers, and he'd dropped like his strings had been cut. That wasn't Omega power. That wasn't even Beta power. That was something else entirely. "Iris," she spun. Kyle emerged from the shadows, still in his formal blacks, his iron crown discarded somewhere. His face was unreadable, but his eyes were burning. "We need to talk. I don't know what happened." The words tumbled out before she could stop them. I don't know what that was. My wolf has been dormant my whole life. I've never felt her before. I didn't mean to. Stop. He moved closer. Slowly. Deliberately. The same way he'd approached her in the study that first night. Tell me what you felt. Exactly. I don't know how to describe it. It was like something woke up. Something that's been sleeping inside me since I was a child. And when Gerald grabbed me, when he touched me, she shook her head. It was like she couldn't stand it, like she needed to protect us. Protect me. She? My wolf. Iris pressed a hand to her chest, where she could still feel that second heartbeat strong and steady. I can feel her now, for the first time in my life. She's real. Kyle studied her for a long moment. His jaw was tight. His hands were clenched at his sides. That power you displayed wasn't Omega. It wasn't even Alpha. His voice was low, rough. What you did to Gerald, that was dominance. Pure, concentrated dominance. The kind of power that makes wolves kneel without a command. The kind that... He stopped. His face went pale. The kind that what? The kind that only manifests in mates of the Alpha King. Iris's blood turned to ice. What? It's rare. Ancient. A queen's power. The ability to command wolves through sheer presence. It manifests when a true bond forms with the king. His dark eyes bored into hers. It shouldn't have manifested. We don't have a true bond. We have a contract. Then why? I don't know. He stepped closer still, close enough that she had to tilt her head to meet his gaze, close enough that his scent surrounded her, pine and smoke and something darker, something wild. I don't know what's happening. I don't know why you smell like storm clouds and destiny. I don't know why I can't stop thinking about you. I don't know. He reached for her. His hand cupped her jaw, his thumb brushing her cheekbone. And the world exploded. Light, heat, a roaring in her ears like 1,000 wolves howling at once. Iris felt something lock into place inside her, something massive and ancient and inevitable. A chain of gold stretching between her heart and his, forged in fire and blood and something older than time. The mate bond. Not a contract. Not an agreement. A true mate bond, buried and dormant for God knows how long, now roaring to life with a fury that threatened to consume them both. Kyle wrenched his hand away. He stumbled backward, his face twisted with horror. No. His voice cracked. No. I can't have another mate. I won't. What? Iris was gasping. The bond was pulsing between them, demanding, desperate. She could feel his emotions bleeding into hers, fear and longing and grief so deep it threatened to drown her. What is this? What's happening? The mate bond. He was pressed against the wall now, as far from her as he could get without fleeing. The true bond. It manifests between fated mates, wolves destined... He laughed, a broken sound. Destined. As if destiny has ever done anything but destroy me. I don't understand. We can't be fated mates. We barely know each other. It doesn't matter if we know each other. The bond doesn't care about logic or time or choice. His dark eyes were wild, desperate. Celeste was my fated mate, my true bond, and when she died, his voice broke. When she died, it should have killed me too. That's what happens when a true mate dies. The bond shatters and takes both wolves with it. But you're still here. Am I? He laughed again. Hollow. Terrible. I survived because I didn't feel it. The night she died, I wasn't here. I was dealing with a border uprising. And when I came back... He pressed the heels of his hands against his eyes. When I came back, she was already gone. The bond was already broken. I should have felt it, should have known the moment she died. But I didn't. I didn't feel anything until I walked into her chambers and saw... He stopped. His whole body was shaking. What happened that night? Iris asked softly. What really happened to Celeste? Kyle dropped his hands. His face was hollow, empty, a mask with nothing behind it. I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? I mean exactly that. His voice was flat, dead. The border uprising was handled by midnight. I started riding home. And then, nothing. I woke up 3 days later in the forest outside the citadel covered in blood. His dark eyes met hers. Her blood. Celeste's blood. Under my nails. In my hair. Everywhere. Iris felt the world tilt beneath her feet. You blacked out? 3 days. Gone. No memory of what happened. Just the blood. Just the knowledge that my mate was dead and I couldn't remember. His voice cracked again. I don't know if I killed her. I don't know if I came home and found her and tried to save her. I don't know if something else happened entirely. All I know is that I woke with her blood on my hands and a hole where our bond used to be. The silence stretched between them. The mate bond pulsed in Iris's chest, demanding acknowledgement, demanding completion. But over it she felt something else, something from him. Grief, guilt, fear. He's terrified, she realized. He's terrified that he killed her, that he killed the woman he loved and can't remember it. Kyle, don't. He pushed off the wall, moving past her without touching her. Don't comfort me. Don't tell me it wasn't my fault. You don't know that. I don't know that. He stopped at the end of the corridor, his back to her. The bond between us shouldn't exist. I had a fated mate and she died. There are no second fated mates. That's not how it works. Then what is this? I don't know. His shoulders slumped. But I know what happened to the last woman who was bonded to me. And I won't. His voice dropped to a whisper. I can't let that happen again. I won't be responsible for destroying another. He didn't finish. He just walked away, disappearing into the darkness of the castle. Iris stood alone in the corridor, her wolf whimpering in her chest, the mate bond singing in her blood. 3 days. He'd lost 3 days. And somewhere in those missing hours his first mate had died. She touched the crescent scars on her palms, silver against her skin, the mark of a dead queen who'd pressed something into her hands and begged her to find the truth. He didn't do it, but he knows who did, and he's protecting them. Except Cale didn't know who did it. He didn't even know if he'd done it himself. So who was he protecting? And why did Celeste's ghost seem so certain that there was a truth still buried somewhere in this castle of shadows? Iris closed her fists around her scars and walked back toward her chambers. Tomorrow she would start digging. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 4. Iris didn't sleep that night. She lay in Celeste's bed, staring at the constellation-painted ceiling, feeling the mate bond pulse in her chest like a second heartbeat. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Cale's face, hollow, haunted, confessing to a crime he couldn't remember committing. I woke with her blood on my hands. But it didn't fit. None of it fit. She'd felt his emotions bleeding through the bond. Grief, guilt, fear. Not the cold detachment of a murderer, not the satisfaction of violence, just devastation. The broken anguish of a man who'd lost everything and didn't know why. And then there was Celeste's message. The silver wolf in her dreams pressing something into her hands, begging her to find the truth. He didn't do it. But he knows who did. And he's protecting them. Except Cale didn't know who did it. He'd made that clear. So either Celeste was wrong, or there was something Cale wasn't telling her. Or something he didn't know he knew. Iris sat up, her wolf stirring restlessly in her chest. She was done waiting. Done being the passive piece in someone else's game. If there was a truth buried in this castle, she was going to dig it up. Starting now. She found the hidden compartment by accident. She'd been searching Celeste's chambers systematically, the wardrobe, the vanity, the writing desk, when her foot caught on a loose floorboard near the window. The board shifted, revealing a narrow gap filled with dust and shadow. And inside, wrapped in faded velvet, was a journal. Iris's hands trembled as she lifted it. The leather cover was worn soft with age, the pages yellowed. Celeste's name was embossed on the front, in silver script that had mostly flaked away. She opened it to the first page. "If you're reading this, I'm probably dead." Iris's breath caught. She kept reading. "I know someone wants to kill me. I've known for months. But I can't tell Kyle. He'd tear the court apart trying to protect me, and that's exactly what they want. They want him destabilized. They want him vulnerable. They want him broken enough to control. So I'm writing this instead. A record. Evidence. If I die, maybe someone will find it. Maybe someone will understand. Maybe someone will finally stop them." The entries were scattered, written in haste, some dated, some not. Celeste described court intrigues, suspicious meetings, wolves who seemed to know things they shouldn't. She wrote about feeling watched, feeling hunted, feeling like prey in her own home. And she wrote about the ritual. "I found the books in the restricted archives, ancient texts about wolf transference, dark magic that lets one wolf steal another's power. It requires a sacrifice. The original wolf must die during the ritual, their essence ripped from their body and transferred to the recipient. It requires the blood of both mates, the dying wolf's blood to release the power, the surviving mate's blood to guide it to its new host. Someone is planning to steal my wolf. They need Kyle's blood to do it. They need us both." Iris's stomach turned. She forced herself to keep reading. "I don't know who's behind it. Someone with access to the archives. Someone close enough to drug Kyle without suspicion. Someone who wants power badly enough to kill for it. I've narrowed it to 3 possibilities, but I can't investigate alone." The next entry made Iris's heart stop. "Serena knows about the ritual. She promised to protect me. I trust her. She's the only one who understands what it means to love Kyle and fear him too." Lady Serena, the ice-blonde woman who'd guided Iris through the court with barely concealed contempt. The woman who'd been Kyle's lover for 3 years. The woman who'd expected to be queen. Iris turned the page, desperate for more. But the rest of the journal was blank. Whatever else Celeste had discovered, she died before she could write it down. "Serena knows about the ritual. I trust her." Had that trust gotten Celeste killed? "You shouldn't be reading that," Iris spun, clutching the journal to her chest. Dominic stood in her doorway, massive and still, his silver-streaked hair falling across his forehead. His wolf was watching her through his eyes, careful, assessing. "How long have you been standing there?" "Long enough." He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. "I wondered when you'd find it." Celeste wasn't subtle about her hiding places. "You knew about this?" "I've read every word 100 times." His voice was flat. "Looking for something I missed, some clue that would tell me who killed her." Iris studied him. The massive beta, commander of the Citadel Guard, Kyle's most trusted advisor. But there was something else in his face now, something raw and wounded. "You loved her," she said quietly. Dominic's jaw tightened. "Is it that obvious?" "No. But the way you talk about her, the way you look when her name comes up," Iris paused. "You've been investigating her death, not to prove Kyle's innocence or guilt, because you needed to know who took her from you." For a long moment, Dominic was silent. Then he moved to the window, staring out at the moonlit valley. "She was everything," he said finally. "Bright, fierce. Absolutely loyal to Kyle, even when it cost her. I knew I could never have her. She was the queen, bonded to the king, untouchable. But I could protect her, watch over her, make sure nothing ever hurt her." His hands curled into fists against the glass. "And then something did. Something got past all my defenses, all my precautions. She died alone in these chambers while I was 100 feet away and I didn't hear a thing." "It wasn't your fault, wasn't it?" He turned to face her. "I was supposed to protect her. I failed. The only thing I can do now is find the truth." "Then help me." Iris held up the journal. "She mentions a ritual, wolf transference. Someone wanted to steal her power." I know. I've researched it extensively. Dominic crossed to her, taking the journal from her hands. The ritual requires specific conditions. The blood of both mates, the death of the wolf being transferred, and a recipient powerful enough to hold the stolen essence. Celeste thought Serena was helping her. Celeste trusted too easily. His voice hardened. Serena was in the castle that night. She claims she was in her chambers, but no one can verify it. And she's been circling Kyle ever since, waiting for her chance to take Celeste's place. You think she's the one? I think she's involved. But the ritual requires knowledge most wolves don't have. Someone with access to the restricted archives. Someone trained in the old ways. He paused. Someone who knew exactly when Kyle would be away from the castle and how to drug him without leaving traces. The 3 days he lost, Dominic nodded. He was drugged. I'm certain of it. Some compound that erased his memory and kept him compliant while they took his blood. By the time the drug wore off, Celeste was dead, and Kyle was covered in evidence that pointed directly to him. They framed him. Perfectly. The blood under his nails, in his hair. It was staged. Someone wanted the world to believe the Butcher King had finally lived up to his name. Iris felt sick. But why? What would anyone gain from Kale being blamed for his mate's death? Control. Dominic's eyes were hard. A guilty king is a vulnerable king. Someone's been using Kale's guilt to manipulate him for 3 years, keeping him isolated, making sure he never gets too close to anyone, making sure he never bonds again. Until me. Until you. He studied her with new intensity. The mate bond shouldn't have manifested. You shouldn't have Queen's power. Something about you is different, and whoever killed Celeste is going to notice. A chill ran down Iris's spine. You think they'll come after me. I think they already are. Marcus arrived at court 3 days later. Iris was in the Great Hall, reviewing petitions with Kale's secretary when the Silverfang delegation entered. She'd known they were coming. The summit had included representatives from all 12 packs, and Silverfang was no exception. But she hadn't known Marcus would be among them. He looked the same. Handsome. Golden. That easy smile that hid the monster beneath. But when his eyes found her across the crowded hall, she saw something new in them. Fear. He approached during a lull in the proceedings, when Kyle was occupied with the Ironclaw Alpha and no one was watching too closely. Well, well, Marcus murmured, stopping close enough that only she could hear. The Omega who got away. I have to admit, I didn't think you had it in you. What do you want, Marcus? Just to catch up with my former mate. His smile was sharp. Although I hear you've found a new one, the Butcher King himself. Quite the upgrade from a simple beta. If you have something to say it. His smile faded. You think you're safe here? Think that crown on your head protects you? He leaned closer. I know things, Iris. 5 years of things. All those nights you spent in my bed, all those secrets you whispered. How do you think the court would react if they knew their precious new queen used to beg a beta to claim her? Used to crawl to him on her knees? Iris's wolf snarled in her chest, but she kept her voice steady. They're lies. Twisted versions of what you did to me. Does it matter? Truth, lies, in court, perception is everything. His golden eyes glittered. I could destroy you with a few well-placed rumors. Make everyone believe you're exactly what they already suspect. A conniving Omega who seduced her way to power. Why would you do that? What do you gain? Something flickered in his face. That fear again, buried but present. Insurance, he said quietly. Things are happening. Dangerous things. I need to know I have leverage over everyone who might become a threat. What things? What are you afraid of? But Marcus was already backing away, his mask sliding back into place. Just remember, little Omega, you're not the only one playing games here, and some players have been at it much longer than you. He disappeared into the crowd, leaving Iris's heart pounding and her mind racing. Marcus was afraid, not of her, of something else, something bigger. And whatever it was, he was desperate enough to threaten her just to feel like he had some control. What did he know about the conspiracy? And who was he really afraid of? That night, Iris decoded the final entry in Celeste's journal. She'd almost missed it, a series of letters written in the margin of an early page, so faint they were nearly invisible. But her wolf's new senses caught them, and she spent hours working through the cipher. When she finally cracked it, her blood ran cold. The ritual requires a vessel of sufficient power. My wolf is strong, but not strong enough to survive the transfer. Serena has been searching for something more. Someone more. She showed me the bloodline records today. The white wolves. The sacred line thought extinct. She says there are rumors of survivors. Hidden. Dormant. She says if she finds one, everything changes. White wolves. Iris had heard the legends, an ancient bloodline with power beyond normal wolves, sacred guardians who could channel the moon's pure essence. They'd been hunted to extinction centuries ago, their power too dangerous to let survive. But Serena was looking for survivors. Serena was looking for a vessel powerful enough to hold a stolen wolf. And 3 days ago, in front of the entire court, Iris had displayed power that shouldn't exist. Power that made alphas kneel. Power that marked her as something more than a normal Omega. Oh God, she had to find Dominic, had to tell Kale, had to... The window shattered. Iris threw herself sideways as glass exploded across the chamber. A figure crashed through the opening, dark-cloaked, fast, moving with lethal precision. She caught a glimpse of a knife glinting in the moonlight. Then the blade was arcing toward her throat. Her wolf erupted. Not the controlled power she'd displayed at the summit. This was raw, primal, a force of nature tearing its way out of her body with a scream that shook the walls. Light blazed from her skin, not gold, not silver, but white. Pure, blinding white that filled the chamber like a second sun. The assassin stumbled back, crying out, hands flying to their eyes. And Iris changed. It wasn't painful. It was ecstatic. Like being born, like dying, like becoming everything she was always meant to be. Her bones shifted, her skin rippled, her human form fell away like a shed skin, and in its place, a wolf. A massive white wolf with eyes like molten silver and fur that seemed to glow with inner light. The assassin fled, crashed through the broken window and vanished into the night. But Iris barely noticed. She was too overwhelmed by the sensation of finally, after 23 years, being whole. Her wolf threw back her head and howled. The sound echoed through the castle, across the valley, into the mountains beyond. A sound of triumph, of awakening, of power. The door burst open. Kyle stood there, sword drawn, eyes blazing gold, and stopped dead. Impossible, he breathed. Iris's wolf looked at him through silver eyes. She could feel his shock through the bond, his awe, his fear. A white wolf, sacred bloodline, power beyond measure, worth killing for. She shifted back, her human form reassembling around her like water finding its shape. She stood naked in the moonlight, surrounded by broken glass, trembling with the aftershock of her transformation. Serena, she gasped. It's Serena. She killed Celeste. She's been looking for a white wolf. Looking for someone powerful enough to hold a stolen essence. Kale's face went pale. How do you know? Celeste's journal. The ritual. Iris swayed. The shift had taken something out of her, some essential energy. She wants what she's always wanted. You, the crown, the power. But now she wants something more. What? Iris looked at him, her sacred wolf curling protectively in her chest, her white fur still shimmering beneath her skin. She wants my wolf, and she's been planning this for years. The howl of wolves rose from somewhere in the castle, guards, soldiers, the alarm spreading. But somewhere in the darkness, Iris knew Serena was listening, and now she knew exactly what Iris was. The hunt had begun. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 5. Iris woke to darkness and the smell of old blood. Her head throbbed. Her wrists burned where something cold and heavy held them. Chains, she realized, silver chains that sizzled against her skin with a constant, low agony. She was lying on stone, damp and ancient, in a chamber lit only by guttering torches, and standing above her, dressed in ceremonial black, was Serena. "You're awake." The ice-blonde woman smiled, and for the first time Iris saw her clearly, not the polished courtier, not the jilted lover, but the predator she'd always been. "Good. I wanted you conscious for this." Iris tried to move, but the chains held her fast. She was spread-eagled on the floor, her limbs stretched toward 4 iron stakes driven into the stone. Around her, drawn in something dark and rust-coloured, was a circle of symbols she didn't recognize. But she recognized the stains on the floor beneath the circle. Old blood, soaked so deep into the stone it would never come out. "This is where she died," Iris whispered. "Celeste. This is where she was transformed." Serena crouched beside her, still smiling. "Where her power was harvested and transferred to someone more deserving, where a weak queen's essence became fuel for a stronger vessel. You killed her." "I elevated her. She was wasting that wolf on sentiment and softness, loving Kyle, trusting Kyle, believing he'd protect her." Serena's smile twisted. As if the Butcher King could protect anyone. Iris's wolf snarled in her chest, straining against the silver's suppression. "He'll find me." "Will he?" Serena stood, brushing off her hands. "He didn't find Celeste in time. Didn't even know she was in danger until he woke up 3 days later, covered in her blood, with no memory of what happened." She laughed softly. "Do you know how easy he was to manipulate? A simple drug in his wine. A suggestion planted by a trusted advisor. And when he woke, all the evidence pointing to his own guilt. You framed him. I freed him. From a mate who was holding him back. From a bond that made him weak." Serena's ice-blue eyes glittered. "I thought he'd turn to me afterward. I'd been patient. I'd been loyal. I'd waited 3 years as his companion, learning his moods, earning his trust. And then that pathetic Omega showed up at his table with her sad eyes and her empty wolf, and he..." Her voice cracked, just for a moment. "He chose you, a nobody, a broken thing, over me." Her composure returned, colder than before. "But it doesn't matter now. Your wolf is worth 100 Celestes. Once I complete the ritual, I'll have power even the Alpha King can't match. And Kyle will believe he killed another mate. He'll destroy himself with guilt, and I'll be there to pick up the pieces." "You're insane. I'm practical." Serena moved to a stone altar at the edge of the circle, where ritual implements were laid out in precise rows. A silver knife, a crystal vial, a book so old its pages crumbled at the edges. Love makes people stupid. It made Celeste stupid. She trusted me, told me her fears, let me close enough to kill her. It made Kyle stupid. He bonded with a woman who didn't deserve him, and when she died, he broke so beautifully. She lifted the knife, examining its edge. "But I've never been stupid. I've been patient. And now I'm going to take everything I've ever wanted." The ritual began. Serena chanted in a language Iris didn't recognize, harsh, guttural syllables that seemed to make the air itself recoil. The symbols around Iris began to glow, first red, then orange, then a sickly white that pulsed in time with her heartbeat. Pain lanced through her chest. Her wolf howled, thrashing against the silver's suppression, fighting to break free. But the chains held. The circle held. Whatever dark magic Serena was wielding, it was ancient and powerful, and Iris couldn't fight it. "Kyle," she thought desperately. "Kyle, please." She could feel him through the incomplete bond, a distant presence searching, frantic. But he was too far away. He'd never make it in time. This is how Celeste died. Alone. Afraid. Calling for a mate who couldn't save her. No. Iris refused to accept that. She wasn't Celeste. She wasn't helpless. She had a wolf now. A white wolf. A sacred bloodline. Power beyond measure. And she was done being a victim. She reached deep inside herself, past the silver's agony, past the ritual's grip, into the place where her wolf waited. The white creature looked at her with silver eyes, patient and ancient and impossibly strong. Let me out, Iris thought. Whatever it takes. Let me out. The wolf smiled, and Iris burned. Light exploded from her body. Not the controlled glow of her awakening at the summit. Not the defensive flare that had driven off her attacker. This was something else entirely, pure, blinding, annihilating. White fire that roared through the chamber like a living thing, shattering the ritual circle, snapping the chains, lifting Iris off the ground in a column of sacred power. Serena screamed. The ritual backlashed. Iris could see it happening. Dark energy that had been building toward completion, suddenly reversing. Turning inward, tearing through Serena's body as it searched for the source of the disruption. And then Iris saw something else. A silver wolf, small and fierce, trapped inside Serena's chest. Celeste's stolen essence, bound for 3 years, suddenly breaking free as the ritual collapsed. The wolf looked at Iris with grateful eyes and dissolved into motes of light that rose toward the ceiling and vanished. "Thank you," whispered a voice that might have been wind or memory or the ghost of a murdered queen. "Thank you." Then the ceiling caved in. Kyle found her in the rubble. He'd torn through the castle like a hurricane, following the bond's pull, feeling Iris's pain and fear and desperate hope like knives in his own chest. When he'd felt the explosion of power, white and pure and overwhelming, he'd thought she was dying. He'd thought he was too late. Again. But then he'd felt her, still alive, still fighting, and he'd run faster than he'd ever run in his life. The underground chamber was destroyed, stone and dust and twisted metal everywhere, torches extinguished, the ritual circle obliterated. And in the center of it all, half buried in debris, was Iris. She was wounded, bleeding from a dozen cuts, her skin burned where the silver chains had touched her. But when she saw him, she smiled. "Took you long enough," she whispered. Kyle dropped to his knees beside her, hands shaking as he brushed debris away from her face. I thought, I know." She reached up, touching his jaw. Her fingers came away wet. He was crying, he realized. When was the last time he'd cried? "I'm okay. I'm here. You almost died. But I didn't. Because of your wolf." He looked at her, really looked, and saw the white light still glowing faintly beneath her skin. "You're a white wolf, a sacred bloodline. You shouldn't exist. And yet here I am." Her smile wobbled. "Kyle, she told me everything. Serena killed Celeste. She drugged you, framed you, made you believe." "I know." His voice was hollow. "I heard it. Through the bond." He closed his eyes. 3 years. I spent 3 years believing I might have killed the woman I loved. And it was Serena. The whole time, it was Serena. She's dead. Is she? Iris glanced toward the edge of the rubble, where a pale hand protruded from the collapsed stone. Unmoving. Lifeless. "The ritual backlash," she said quietly. "When I broke the circle, the power turned on her. She couldn't hold Celeste's essence anymore. It tore free. Good." The word was savage, final. "Good." He gathered Iris into his arms, lifting her from the rubble like she weighed nothing. She curled against his chest, feeling the frantic hammer of his heart through their incomplete bond. And then something shifted. The bond moved. Like a river breaking through a dam, it flooded open. Not incomplete anymore, not partial, but full and overwhelming and absolute. Iris gasped as Kyle's emotions poured into her, grief and guilt and rage and love, so much love it threatened to drown her. And beneath it all, a fear so deep it had roots in his bones. I can't lose you. I can't survive it. Not again. She sent back her own truth, then stopped pushing me away. They emerged from the underground chamber as dawn broke over the mountains. Guards surrounded them immediately, wolves shouting questions, healers rushing forward. Dominic was there, his face grey with worry, and behind him Helena and Cyrus and a dozen others Iris didn't recognize. But she only had eyes for Cale. He hadn't let go of her, hadn't set her down. He carried her through the chaos like she was precious cargo, like he'd never release her again. And when someone, Marcus, she realized, Marcus trying to slip away through the crowd, made a move toward the gate, Kyle's voice rang out like thunder. Seize him! Guards converged. Marcus fought, but it was hopeless. He was surrounded, outnumbered, caught. When they dragged him before the king, his golden eyes were wild with fear. I wasn't part of the ritual. You knew. Kyle's voice was ice. You knew what Serena was planning. You helped her. That's why you threatened my mate. That's why you've been terrified since you arrived. He looked down at Marcus with contempt that could have frozen the sun. You sold information, access, whatever she needed. In exchange for what? Power, position. She promised me Silverfang. Marcus's voice cracked. Said when she was queen she'd make me alpha. I just wanted what I deserved. What you deserve. Kyle's laugh was terrible. You deserve death. But death is too kind for you. He turned to Dominic. Strip him of rank. Brand him rogue. Cast him into the wild lands with nothing but the clothes on his back. Marcus went pale. No, you can't. I'm a beta. I have status. You have nothing. Kyle's dark eyes were merciless. You're rogue now, the lowest of the low, and every pack in the realm will know what you did. You'll spend the rest of your miserable life running from wolves who want to tear you apart for sport. They dragged Marcus away, his screams echoing through the courtyard. Iris watched him go and felt nothing. No satisfaction, no vindication. Just relief. It was over. Finally, after 5 years, it was over. That night, Iris dreamed of Celeste one last time. They stood in the silver forest again, white mist swirling around them, but the murdered queen was different now. No blood, no wounds, just peace soft and glowing surrounding her like a shroud. You found the truth, Celeste said. Her voice was gentle, grateful. You freed me. I'm sorry it took so long. Time moves differently for the dead. Celeste smiled. But you gave me what I needed. Justice. Rest. She reached out, touching Iris's scarred palms. You'll make a good queen. Better than I was. I'm not trying to replace you. I know. That's why you'll be better. Celeste's form began to fade, dissolving into silver light. Love him well, Iris. He's been alone too long, and he needs someone who'll fight for him. Not just with him, but for him. Someone who won't let him drown in his own darkness. I will. I know you will. Celeste smiled one last time. Thank you. For everything. And she was gone, leaving Iris alone in a forest that slowly transformed into warmth and light, and the soft embrace of waking. The mating ceremony was held 3 weeks later, under the fullest moon of the year. All 12 packs attended. Wolves from every corner of the realm gathered in the great courtyard of the obsidian citadel. Their eyes lifted toward the dais where their king and his chosen queen stood together. Iris wore white, not the traditional crimson of queens, but the sacred color of her bloodline. The gown was simple, elegant, flowing around her like starlight given form. Her hair was unbound, her feet bare against the cold stone. Kyle wore black, as always. His iron crown rested on his brow, but his dark eyes were warm as he looked at her, warmer than anyone had ever seen them. Before all witnesses, the officiant intoned, Before moon and stars and the ancient powers, these two wolves come to be joined. Let any who object speak now or forever hold their silence. No one spoke. No one dared. Then let the bond be sealed. Kyle stepped forward, cupping Iris's face in his hands. I never thought I'd do this again, he said quietly, for her ears alone. I never thought I'd want to. But you, his voice roughened, you brought me back to life. You fought for me when I couldn't fight for myself. You're not just my mate, Iris. You're my choice, my future, my everything. You know what I am, she said, what I might become. There are others out there, white wolves hiding, waiting. I might have to find them. It might be dangerous. Then we'll face it together. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. I'm done running from what scares me. I'm done pushing away what I love. Whatever comes, we face it as one. He bent his head to her throat. The bite was swift, deep, perfect. Iris gasped as the bond flared, that golden chain between them igniting into something permanent, something eternal. She felt him settle into her soul like he'd always been there. Like a missing piece finally finding its place. Then she did something unprecedented. She bit him back. The crowd gasped. Kings didn't get marked. Queens submitted. They didn't claim. But Iris had never been traditional, and Kyle had never wanted a submissive mate. Her teeth broke his skin. Her essence flooded into him. And when she pulled back, her mark gleamed silver on his throat, a queen's claim on her king. Equal, permanent, unbreakable. Kyle looked at her with something like wonder. Then he laughed, a real laugh, warm and surprised and full of joy, and pulled her into a kiss that made the gathered wolves howl their approval. Later, after the feast, and the dancing, and the endless congratulations, Iris slipped away to their chambers to change out of her ceremonial gown. A letter waited on her pillow. No signature, no seal. Just a single sheet of parchment folded around a small pendant, a crescent moon carved from white stone, identical to the scars on her palms. She unfolded the letter with shaking hands. You survived what you shouldn't have. Now they know you exist. The white wolves weren't hunted to extinction, little queen. They went into hiding, and they've been waiting for you. The bloodline calls to its own. When you're ready to learn what you truly are, seek the temple in the northern mountains. We have much to discuss. Welcome home. Below the words was a symbol, the same symbol she'd glimpsed in Serena's ritual chamber. A white wolf beneath a crescent moon, surrounded by stars. Iris stared at the letter, her heart pounding. The door opened. Kyle entered, still in his ceremonial blacks, still wearing her mark on his throat. He saw her face and went still. What is it? She handed him the letter. Watched his expression shift as he read it, from confusion to understanding, to grim determination. Well, he said finally, looking up at her, it seems your past is catching up with you. They've been waiting for me. The white wolves, whatever that means. It means someone knows what you are. It means they want something from you. His jaw tightened. It means we have another fight ahead. Iris looked at him, her mate, her king, her choice. The man who'd carried her out of darkness, who'd let her mark him as an equal, who'd promised to face whatever came as one. She took his hand. We might have a problem, she said. His mouth curved, that almost smile she'd fallen in love with. Then we'll face it together. Outside, the full moon hung heavy in the sky. And somewhere in the northern mountains, white wolves waited. But that was a story for another time. The end. Or perhaps just the beginning. Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe, like, and share this video to continue listening to this type of story daily and also to appreciate this community too. I would like to hear your wonderful opinion about this story. Please comment below.